right, hello everybody. Charles Eisenstein here again with Patsy for another installment of the Halfmoon podcast. I'm not sure exactly what Patsy has in store for us. If it's going to be a mythological tale or more of a folk tale or a recollection from her childhood or something else. But I'll just say, as usual, to receive the images from whatever kind of story it is, without too much effort at interpretation, so that the story can work on us. This is one of the faulty assumptions that people have in a in a success or achievement-oriented culture like our own, that whatever improvements happen, or whatever improvements that you seek, have to be something that you do, that you achieve. But the whole point of a lot of these teaching stories, these medicine stories, as I call them, is that they do the work on you. So it's a much more of a attitude of receiving and an attitude that the universe is generous, which is not to say that we don't do practices or make efforts. But there is a lot that we cannot achieve through our efforts. So that's just a long way of saying, don't try too hard. And we'll just see where this story takes us. If you even have a story, Patsy, what's on your mind now anyway?
Oh, I remember yesterday we were talking about the Monkey King story.
Yeah.
And actually started from the Monkey King temple in southern Taiwan, because Monkey King temple are very rare. So a reporter was interviewing the temple priest, which is a woman, temple priestess.
Yeah.
So I'd like to kind of continue on that a little bit, because there's still a lot to unpack on the story of Monkey King. And also, in other episodes, you prime people to the folk Taoism. So if the listeners are listening to this for the very first time, I want to emphasize that folk Taoism in my time when I was growing up as a child, prior, my generations before me, before the civilization and capitalism, the folk Taoism is very much weaved into the society. People don't see those stories as stories outside of their day-to-day life. And we often, adults oftentimes use verses from the story to interact with us as a child.
Yeah, and this isn't only the case of traditional Taiwan, or really, I mean, it was traditional China. This was
before the communists.
Yeah. This used to be hundreds of millions of people who were living in this other reality. But it's true of any traditional culture. There's not so rigid a dividing wall between fiction and reality. People live much more in a mythic reality. So yeah, like if you pinned somebody down, they might say, well, of course, there wasn't actually a monkey who actually did this kind of thing. But that way of thinking would not occur naturally to people. They don't necessarily approach everything in terms of, okay, is this real or is this not real? But culturally, people are much more disposed to receiving the story without that like critical, judgmental filter on it. So you can say that they live much more in a mythic reality. Yeah, and if you are just joining us, well, part of what we talked about last time was the Monkey King Temple in Tainan, which is the most traditional part of Taiwan. And there was an interview that Patsy described with one of the temple priestesses, asking her, well, why do you even do this? And she described the utility of the devotional practices there, how it can help you in your relationship with your children and other things. And again, there is no rigid dividing line between superstition and practicality. And I've experienced this in Taiwan. Like when you go to these temples, this isn't just for some worship or something otherworldly. It is, I'm facing this situation, I'm starting a business, I'm going to college, I'm having a problem in my relationship, or whatever it is, and you interact with the various beings at these temples to bring aid and wisdom to the situation. So it's considered very practical in that worldview, in that mythic reality that people live in. And so anyway, so now we're returning to that Monkey King temple, because there was more, Patsy, you were going to tell us about it.
Yes,
Yeah.
because so the journalist pointed at the statue, the carving of the Monkey Kings, and said, "Why are there so many of them?" And then she said, because the person who carved the statue, the master carver, they usually a carver of deities. That's all they do. They don't carve other things, and there is a reason for that. And because they're being used by the spirit to mediating the two reality. And she said the spirit, the deity, would direct the master to express his appearances in different ways, like the mudras, how the hands and arms and expression, how it's going to present itself. And this kind of remind me of the story how I acquired my Guanyin, when we were in our 20s living in Taiwan. And I have always wanted a Guanyin because my heart connects to the Guanyin, and there are other Guanyin story I can tell at a later time. So I never took buses when I was in Taiwan because a taxi in Taiwan is so cheap. So I usually take a taxi. And that day, for some reason, I decided to take a bus to run some errands at municipality. So I got off the bus in a very strange place, and I saw a store. They are selling 佛具店, the all the equipments that you need for bye bye.
Yeah, they have special shops that have basically religious implements. That,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah. And so in the window, they have a big glass window. In the window at the bottom, in the corner, there was a wood carved granny. It's like beaming with light. So I went in to ask the shop owner to get that out for me to look at, and I asked for how much it costs. And to me, it costs like a song, equivalent to US dollar $120. And is a piece of very special Taiwanese wood that emits natural fragrance and it's carved so beautifully. So I said, "Oh my God, I feel so lucky uh, to get this. I've been looking for one like this for years, and for this one for years." And he said, "就是, like meaning that, just having a common heart. This statue has been here for many years. Not even one person asked for it." And he said, and that is because there is a connection between the gods, representation of the gods and the person. It's not like going to store and shopping for things. You have to wait for the right time and right moment, and it's obviously yours. And so I thought that those two story connects to how much like people's acknowledgement and embody the animating spirit.
Yeah. Yeah, objects are not just objects. They are mediators of relationship. And in a culture like that. And so one level of that mediation is the the actual Monkey King, whatever that is using the artist as a vehicle of expression to translate something of that spirit of the Monkey King into form. And then when the devotee goes to the temple to pray to the Monkey King or do the rituals, then that image carries some kind of power. It's not just some accident. It's not that the carver decided, oh, I think one with this mudra would be cool right here. But it's the carver has to really enter a state of devotion himself so that he's not trespassing on the domain of this deity. And the Guanyin also, there's just like this mystical thread that this was made for you. It's not just an object, it's personal. It's not just a commodity. And so this is a level of reality and a type of wealth. Last time we spoke also of the incredible wealth of a society where, there's street performances and the whole neighborhood is there and stuff. This is another aspect of that wealth that is mostly absent from modern society, where objects come without relationship. They just appear as if out of nowhere after you order them online. No one made them for you. They weren't made by an individual at all. They were made in a factory, and they are made to be standardized. That's what a commodity is. And that's how industry works. It works by standardization. You have to have every rivet and every nut and every hole exactly the same. Otherwise, the factory doesn't work. And we generate enormous superficial wealth that way. We can make a lot of stuff very efficiently, and everybody can have many things. But those things end up replacing what is made intentionally from materials and by people that you're familiar with and that is unique. So, and again, mentioning, just as we mentioned last time, it's not to just make us feel sad and depressed about how impoverished our society is, but it is to speak to that part of us that understands what is actually valuable, to affirm that knowledge, because then we know we're not crazy for wanting it back, Yeah, and it doesn't have to be the Monkey King. It doesn't have to be the Guanyin Bodhisattva. These are just maybe more obvious examples of a sacred object. But anything is, really, if anything is sacred, everything is sacred, right? It's just that some things are more obviously sacred so that they can remind us of what we're actually craving.
Yeah, so I was thinking about the word meditation because you did mention about some people commented about, oh no, more guided meditation. So I was contemplating, why is that? The word meditation to me really represents focus on your attention in a concentrated way in order to portal your mind to a different nuanced reality. So it doesn't have to be any particular thing. It's more of representing a portaling. And so when you were leading a guided meditation last time and to point to the different medicine in that part of the Monkey King story, I thought that maybe I'll continue on the Monkey King story because this Monkey King carry a lot of it's like characters that we all go through as humans. For example, I was talking about the Monkey King got his first initiation. He went to find a master and learned a lot of magical skills. And he returned wanting to continue to protect his monkey troop, but they're gone, and his home is destroyed because an invader come, the cow demon, right? So the Monkey King went into battle with him, and he won. Monkey King won, and so this is interesting thing. Not only that he won, he made friends with the invader leader because they started to admire each other's skill and say, hey, what if we just make friends instead? So, but still, these two, both Monkey King and that Niu Mo Wang, they were still in a like the demon realm, so to speak. They're not really that evolved yet. And so from that point on, the Monkey King was very arrogant. He changed from a content Monkey King to a very arrogant being, thinking that he's very, very powerful now. And he traveled to the East Ocean and stole a weapon from the dragon lore, which we talked about, one of the dragon lore. Uh,
One
and
of the ones that you told about?
yes, I want to,
Which
yeah,
one?
yes, because these two dragon lore will eventually become the kings and governors of the ocean. So Monkey King, and so
Which one did he steal it from?
well, I actually don't know. Oh, wait a minute. I do know. Is the east that would be Fei Long.
Beilong.
The
Okay.
south would be Pinghe. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Nanhai and Donghai Long Wang. So as a child, those scenes when he was at the palace of the Dragon Palace in the ocean, there's a lot of details and like the storyteller dramatized it on stage. It was very entertaining.
So
Uh,
this wouldn't necessarily be the Niamianren, the could also be like puppet shows, right?
Oh
Or
yeah, puppet
yeah,
shows.
yeah.
Oh, totally. And also stage shows,
Mhm.
yeah. And sometimes is our kids, we impersonate them and we play a shows one Sunday afternoon, and then we made up stories. It's a really fun time. So the Monkey King went make stole the weapon and he went to the heaven and stole the immortality peach,
Uh-huh.
Pantao of the Xi Wang Mu, the
Uh,
mother of heaven, stole
uh,
that, and that's how he became immortal. And then he just make a huge mess like a monkey does in the heaven. So the Yu Huang Dadi, the AJ emperor, was like didn't know what to do with this powerful wild beast. And one of his advisors say, "Hey, he's not very sophisticated. You can give him a position in heaven, and then you will probably get him under control and follow the rules." So the J Emperor thought, okay, good idea. So he gave him the position of this is so funny, sorry about that. It's the position of watching horses, how do you call those? The building where you have horse store
Stable. Uh,
stable, yes.
yeah.
He's the governor of the ho royal horse stable.
Uh-huh.
So it's really not a very elegant position, but he's a monkey. He couldn't tell the differences. He's
Right.
like,
He didn't know that that he was being given like a fairly menial job.
right. So he's
Right.
like, oh, wow, I got a position in
Yeah.
heaven. He accepted it with pride, but very quickly he realized that it was really nothing at all. So he made another fiasco. And the whole heaven just didn't, just 拿他没办法，不知道怎么办了。
They
So
don't know. They just have no idea what to do now.
yeah, so they asked the Sekamoni 如来佛 come to tame him.
A
Um,
Buddha. This is
yeah, the Buddha.
Sakyamuni Buddha to
Yeah,
come.
Sekamoni.
So really
Yeah.
interesting here. I just want to interject just that this is Buddhism and Taoism all mixed together as a kind of a folk religion, and it's so distant from these arid philosophical principles, and these clear metaphysical things. And maybe there's part of your mind that's like, okay, but what does this mean? How does this translate into spiritual principles? Don't think that way. You actually will receive more. And I will actually say some things later, but um, yeah,
Yeah.
I'm here with this image of the monkey causing all kinds of trouble, and then they bring Buddha himself in to deal with the situation. Yeah.
Yeah. In fact, one time my mom told me about Western gods. He said, 其他的人种、其他的国家有他们的神，meaning that other races have their own gods. Oh, my heart was so moved. My elders, although they didn't know anything about Western mythology, but they said to me that, when I go west, I will encounter
Yeah.
other people's gods, and they provide their own protection too. So I believe if Taoist has an opportunity to meet, I don't know, Odin, they will probably say something about Odin. In fact, there was a story about Sisyphus I told you about, the Chinese people wrote uh, a while back. Dong Bai, he wrote about how Sisyphus got rescued by the Buddha, and then eventually
Wow.
he got
Really?
enlightened.
How long ago was that story written?
That probably in the 60s or 70s is a modern one.
Okay. I thought it was some dynastic. Okay.
Right.
All right. Anyway, let's return to the story.
Okay. So the
Yeah.
Buddha tricked the monkey. He said, I'm gonna place a bet with you. Even though you can ride your Yun, Yun is a cloud that is
Cloud. Yeah.
really, really fast that the monkey can ride, that you cannot fly out of my palm. And the monkey laughed and said, "That's ridiculous. That would be an easy bet for me to win." So the Buddha opened his palm, and the monkey jumped into the Buddha's palm. And they counted one, two, three, and here he went. The monkey just flew, and he flew for a long time, and he saw lots of white clouds flying by. And then a long, long time passed. He thought, surely I should be the end of the world. And then he saw like five very strange mountains erect at the edge of the cloud. He thought, that must be the end of the world. So he went over to the mountain, and he thought, I better make a mark that I've been here before. So he peed on the one of the mountain foothill, and then he take out the weapon that he stole from the dragon, and turn it into a uh, Maobi calligraphy pen,
Rush. Yeah.
a
Yeah.
brush, and
Yeah.
he wrote, 孙悟空到此一游, like,
Mhm.
I have been here, I've visited here. And then he flew back, long, 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 long way, flew back.
Mhm.
And the cloud parted, and he saw himself on the palm of the Buddha's hand. And he said to Buddha, I went to the end of the world, and I left a mark there to prove that I was there. So I went out of your palm and back. And the Buddha said, oh, yeah. And then the Buddha showed one of his finger as it has that calligraphy, and also the Monkey King's P there. And the
Yeah.
Monkey King didn't honor he's lost, so he started to fight with the Buddha. And the Buddha flipped his palm and then crushed Monkey King in a huge mountain called Shan, that represents his five finger.
Mhm.
And then Monkey King was supposed to be under the mountain forever. But 500 years later, there was a purpose for him, and that's when he was introduced to Tangsanzang. So I'm gonna stop here because from
Yeah.
that point on, it opens up like lots of stories.
And Tang Shan Zhang, just to be clear, that's the um, main human character in the story, right?
Right, right. And in Tang Dynasty, that's the dynasty when he's sent to Hindu to
Mhm.
bring back the sutras.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. The Tang Dynasty is somewhat known as one of the golden ages of humanity. There's like brief outcroppings of the future that kind of come into history. And of course, those times are not perfect, but they have like some kind of signature of the more beautiful world our hearts know is possible. Like classical Athens, maybe. I mean, certainly wasn't perfect. If you were a slave or a woman, things weren't so good. But there was definitely a kind of a golden age there. And Tang Dynasty China is another example. of like this high point of culture and cultivation and spirituality. So the story, you know, when you were telling it, I just could not help but think of the maturation of a human being, you know, starting in paradise, you know, the Monkey King starting with his troop in paradise. That is the womb, that's childhood, you know, where all of your needs are met effortlessly and you're treated like a king. Okay, a lot of people didn't have that kind of childhood, but we know the archetype, you know, the indulged baby. And then when you grow up, you go out and you learn things and you become powerful. You develop superpowers in a sense. You know, you become like certainly more powerful than your parents. Like I'm seeing this, you know, with my 12-year-old now, you know, like I used to be able to do everything better than him. And now, you know, we go to the climbing gym and gosh, dad is getting pretty dumb and slow, you know. So the child goes out and develops superpowers. And then as in the story comes back and paradise is no longer paradise. That childhood Eden has been destroyed. I'm not going to try to interpret everything, but you know, then you have this victory and reconciliation over that which has destroyed it. I guess is kind of an acceptance of adulthood, and then what am I going to do with all these powers? Like the young adult, you know, can make all kinds of mischief. The young adult is so capable and so powerful compared to, you know, an decrepit old 50-something-year-old like me. I mean, I'm not decrepit in any sense, but you know, I have at least some degree of wisdom and having learned from many mistakes. You know, once you're in your 50s, you are no longer so impulsive and overconfident, but not when you're in your 20s. So, you know, the monkey king is making messes all over the place, doesn't know how to use his power, and then he gets a job. He gets a job, and it seems great at first. You know, oh, I've got this important post in an investment bank or whatever it is. You know, seems like a really high post. And Patsy's laughing there, but she's on mute. But I think you should not be on mute because it's funny. You know, yeah, like I get this get this job, and it seems great at first, but soon you learn that it's almost like a kind of a bribe to divert your power in a way that isn't disruptive. I mean, there's a shadow side to this too. It's not just that you won't make trouble. Yeah, you won't make trouble and overthrow the system. You know, it takes revolutionary and idealistic energy and redirects it toward making money or having status. And you know, it works for a while, but then you start to think, gosh, this is meaningless. This isn't what I was told, and I don't actually aspire to this kind of bribery. This doesn't work anymore. This isn't really such a big deal, and then you rebel against that.
With that, Charles, I want to
Yeah.
add in another image in your head. It was
Right.
one of the funniest image I thought. It was the monkey wearing the coarse clothing, right? And there was a special hat he has to wear, and the special clothes he had to wear so to look fitting in to represent his proper work. But he's still a monkey. He's still a wild monkey king. Yeah.
Right. That's the suit and tie. Yeah. Here's the regalia of your high office. You know. Yeah. And then I'm just thinking about the part where the Buddha comes in, and you know that's something about the impossibility of escape from the truth. You know, you can travel to the ends of the world, conquer every mountain, you know, do every extreme sport, win the Olympics, but there's no escape from the truth of impermanence, the truth that makes you not satisfied with anything, any of these heavenly positions. So I don't know. I don't want to overinterpret that part because again, that's one of those things where just the image is powerful. Like it's like when you know what it's kind of like actually when you like really love someone unconditionally, or if you're loved unconditionally, and part of you is like, well, I still have to keep earning this love because if I really reveal my true nature, then I won't be loved anymore. Got to be in my good behavior. But when you love someone unconditionally, that doesn't matter. There's literally nothing that they could do that would make you stop loving them because it's just not about what they do. This is actually a bridge to Christianity and the totality of Christ's love. There's nothing you can do to escape it. It's not conditional. The forgiveness is automatic and infinite. And all you need to do is to accept the reality of that, and then you are saved. That's really what the teaching is trying to say. So it's interesting how there's this parallel between that and the Monkey King story. And again, I don't want to, overinterpret it, but it's just that feeling of no matter what I do, no matter where I go, I'm still in the hand of the Buddha. And the Monkey King doesn't like that. He wants to be independent, or he doesn't want to be subordinate or submissive. He wants to be the king, the king of all things. And because he does not accept that lesson and keeps arguing with the Buddha, he gets buried. And we'll hear more of the story another time. But I'm just kind of wondering if there's like some kind of gestational period, the obliteration of our ambitious fantasies and vain aspirations and our self-importance, Yeah, such a rich story.
Yeah, the mountain caused Monkey King have to stay in one place for 500 years to reflect on everything. And in the stories, some renditions talked about like how he went through his inner process of rage, anger, impatience, and bargaining,
Mhm.
and then eventually the all compassionate Bodhisattva Guan Pusa heard him and then come and plead.
Heard him, and
Heard him.
that's the statue that you have. Right?
Yes, yes,
That's yeah,
yeah. Heard
yeah.
him and came to talk to him and wanting to assign him a duty so that he can, make amend, prove himself that he's worthy of letting free.
Mhm. Yeah. Do you have that statue, Patsy?
Yes, I do. I'm
Do you want to
looking
show
at
it?
it right now.
Do you want to show it to us?
Uh,
Can you?
okay, yeah, I can. It's just
Yeah,
that I have to walk away from the screen.
that's okay. We'll
Maybe,
wait for you.
okay. Okay. See,
Yeah, there it is. Yeah.
isn't she pretty? Oh, there are stories about, yeah, there's stories about her too.
Yeah, I
Like,
mean, all of her positions, everything she's holding, everything, there's all kinds of significance to those as well. Yeah.
and I also want to add that the object that in the story, it looks like it's a mountain, but remember, it's part of the Buddha, and one of the Buddhist teaching is that we all have Buddha in ourselves. So, like from my personal experience, when I went through the process of repentance, there's no external forces or supernatural forces that's making me. It's it's my own process typically that I realize that, wow, that's what I have to look at of what I've done.
Hmm. Yeah, it's kind of like we bury ourselves under a mountain because there's like a soul recognition of the necessity to withdraw, to be still. And we might fight that, like in the story, bargaining, um, maybe I'll start a new company, maybe I'll write a new book, maybe I'll, do some other new big thing. And then I'll feel alive again. Then I'll recover that feeling of ambition and drive that I used to have when I was 25. And, just was unconflicted about wanting to get rich and wanting to get famous and wanting to get big and wanting to be important. Maybe I can get that back. Someone told me a story of a mixed martial arts champion, who had kind of retired and went on a journey, a spiritual quest to a sacred site, and had this, experience on the sacred site. And he said, "I'm going to become champion again." Like, what do you do once you've already become champion? What do you do once you've already reached that point of that futility where the rewards of that suit and tie, of that position of, the chief of the horse stables, chief manure sweeper of the horse stables, where that no longer works for you, it no longer brings life to you. What do you do? And you might try it again, let me try to do it again, repeat my success, become champion again. But at some point, you no longer resist that phase, and you enter the mountain. I'm well aware that many people say, "Well, I can't afford to do that." This doesn't mean you quit your job. It doesn't mean that you withdraw from society and stop taking care of your children. It's more of a psychological state where you have given up the search for meaning. You've given up having to tell yourself why. And that humiliation process, that humbling process, where you no longer impose your meanings on the world, that readies you for the task that you will be assigned, where the meanings come to you, and you don't have to colonize reality with your meanings, with your understandings, and you're in the mystery, and then you're really a servant of the Tao. You're really operating according to an incomprehensible intelligence. In Islam, I think it's called being slave of God, completely suffused with the divine will. Yeah, and again, so please, this is not an interpretation of the story, but this is what comes up sometimes when I receive these stories. It brings up memories. It brings up memories of the time in my life where I was animated by the prospect of fulfilling my ambitions, only to realize when I had fulfilled them to some extent, in some way, that isn't really what I wanted after all. That it's a fake position. Because what does it matter? Whether people respect me, whether I'm important, someday I'm going to be dead. And nowhere I can go, nothing I can do will escape from that fact. I'm still in the hand of the Buddha, no matter what. No achievement will outlast me. People might remember it in 200 years if I become world wrestling champion or something like that. But it's just a name to them then, not really meaningful. So these are some of the things that come up in me and maybe in other people listening or watching this, that truths and realizations that are delivered by these stories. It's not I keep saying it, say it one more time. It's not in the interpretation of the stories, but it's what the stories can deliver. And they can deliver a different thing to different people too. Patsy, does any of that resonate with you, and what does it deliver to you?
Wow, that's a big question. I felt like I received so much. In fact, there are some moments I even feel really teary and emotional. Um, but the beauty is that I can't speak about it. I feel it, and I can't wait to see how it unfolds in my day-to-day life. And I will be tested when I encounter, like later I walk out this door to meet some uh, people that I live with and who recently have expressed a lot of fear and, controlling, wanting to
Mhm.
manage the things that it's unmanageable. I live in a condo association and I watch some people who are exemplifying that. So this field that I'm carrying, that I feel in me right now, will be tested to see how it impacts who I am being in the world. And to me, having conversations like this, having practices like this, ultimately is to help me build a foundation to serve what I'm here to serve. And I think, the Monkey King story, uh, he's about to transition to that part of his life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. However you interpret it, there's many ways to receive it as kind of a map of the journey of the soul. And it doesn't mean that every person goes through every one of these stages or even becomes mature, you know. Some people might go to their grave boasting of their superpowers and reveling in their superpowers. And that's okay. You know, it's one of the many kinds of lives that need to be lived for the bigger story to be complete.
Mm.
But these stories are gifts. They're not just entertainment. And when the gift is received, you're going to benefit from it. You know, the gifts are given from generosity. And yeah, I'm very grateful that that you carry these gifts, Patsy, and that you're willing to step out into public and share them, to pass on the gift.
Mm.
I really feel, and certainly there's very rich spiritual literature in every culture, certainly not limited to traditional Chinese literature, Buddhism or Taoism. It's in Western folk tales. All of a sudden, I have the image of Cinderella picking the lentils out of the ashes in the fireplace that the wicked stepmother has assigned her to do. Like, wow, what does that bring up? All of these stories are pregnant with meaning. But I have a feeling that the transition that is in front of humanity right now requires bringing together all of the gifts that humanity's been given, all of the ones that we still have access to bring them all together. Not that every person has to know every story, but they all need to come into the conscious mind, the collective conscious mind, so that the gift can land in the collective of humanity. So, yeah, maybe we just take a few minutes to sit in gratitude for all of the stories that have reached us through the ages and to linger on some of those images. The Monkey King going to the farthest peak, writing his name there. I have come here. I have done this. I have done that. And really having gone nowhere at all. Monkey King feeling all important in his overalls as he cleans out the stables. And maybe there's an image of yourself at some part of your life that comes to mind with that image. And you hold that image without mockery, without making fun of that Monkey King or feeling superior, but with appreciation. It's endearing. And you hold that same dearness for yourself. And in gratitude for having come to where you are now, in this moment. Or maybe take a little bit longer, but then open your eyes and rejoin me and Patsy.
Yeah, so we'll see you
Next time.
next time in our discussion group, right?
Yeah, we'll figure out exactly what the schedule is. But
Okay.
okay.
Bye.
Thank you, Patsy. Bye.